And we are live. Welcome everyone to Stop Selling see, I already messed up. I meant stop interviewing, start selling. This is your podcast to market yourself and to learn how to get your next job utilizing sales tactics. But we're also going to be talking to a very special guest today, the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle Meyer, aka me brother.
Me brother, what's happening?
Man, how you doing?
Doing good. Just relaxing. Got to get to work tomorrow again, of course. It's the daily grind. I work the weekends. I work whenever, so
Yeah,
I'm just relaxing when I can and talking to me brother. Feel
nice.
honored to be on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's good to have you. So tell everybody listening, what do you do for a living currently?
Currently, I'm working at a gas station in Antelope, which
Yes.
is where me and your host grew up, and has now turned into a crap hole. But that comes with poverty, I guess. But yeah, so I'm working at a gas station. I'm doing all sorts of stuff, dealing with all sorts of weirdos, nice people, got good regulars, making a lot of new friends and acquaintances. So it's you know not what I want to do, but it's where I'm at. But
Right.
we're taking some steps to get out of there. Hopefully, something pretty soon here.
Awesome. Well, once again, the whole point of my podcast is not necessarily to talk to people that are CEOs or presidents or any of that. It's really just a way for entry level people to understand sometimes what it's like to work at a different job. And one of the things that you and I talked about this past week was you mentioned you have no idea what it's like to work at a gas station. And as I
Oh my
recall,
God, no!
so the name of this episode today is going to be Gas Station Stories.
Oh
because,
God.
yeah, because I just feel like a lot of people who have come out of high school, they've had their first job at a gas station, or they're listening to this episode and they're thinking about applying for a gas station job and trying that out. They're really going to get an idea of what it's like to work there, whether it's scary stories or funny stories or just stories of you working hard. Because you also mentioned that, and I feel this way as well, is that gas station attendants do not get the recognition that they deserve because it is a very, very tough job. And I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's a lot of turnover with it. And so people like yourself that have a good work ethic, you have to work even harder to pick up their slack, right?
Yeah, and I've been at my current location for 2 years. I told myself it's 5 months, but here we are 2 years later. It took a while to actually kind of get uh, some mobility. I have a vehicle now, so I'm able to branch out, and that's great. But I will say though, at least being in California, a lot of gas stations you have to be 21 to work at. So if you are just getting out of high school and looking for a job, mark yourself safe from a gas station and go to school, or go pick up a trade, because trust me, you don't want any of it. It's not worth the pay. I always thought it was something that it's like, oh, it's minimum wage. Of course it is. It's the gas station. I started doing it, and I was like, I, I don't get paid enough to do any of this. But like you said, you have to have the work ethic and stick through it. Job to job. So, even though it's not the best job in the world, that's definitely an important thing that you and I have learned. Obviously, we had good parents and the same parents, so that work ethic is definitely a big part of why I've been there for 2 years. Trust me, there's plenty of times where I could have turned on the heel and walked out, but when you get into connections, and I don't know how much you've touched base with this, but connections are really big, as well as friendships. The reason I have this job is because I had gone through a couple setbacks, and when I had actually had to move back in with my parents, our parents, uh, I had a friend who worked at the gas station, was up the street. I didn't have a car anymore, this and that, and so I asked him to stick his neck out for me. And honestly, yeah, this is a type of job, a really crappy job, that if it weren't for that, if it weren't for my friend and the connection sticking their friend out, or their neck out for me, I would have left. But as a work ethic, you have to put that to the side. If someone goes out of their way to get you a job, you better roll with the punches. I mean, that's cut and dry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, that's something a lot of people say is the whole, It's not what you know, it's who you know to get you the job. But what people don't realize is that when you make recommendations to friends or family members that come onto your job or your career and they're working with you, that's kind of a risk on your end because I mean I've had it
Right,
happen
big time,
where
yeah.
yeah, like I've had it happen twice where I've recommended somebody to come work for us as like a route service guy, and things just didn't end up working out. And I feel embarrassed because I'm like, well, I recommended these guys and I said they had amazing work ethic and they were awesome.
Mm,
And then within a month for one, like 3 weeks for the other, it just didn't work out. Right. So
yeah,
yeah. So hats off to you because to get a recommendation from somebody, number one, is a big deal. That speaks volumes about your character. But number two, to continue on and have the maturity that you have, even when you're in a kind of a crappy job in a situation that you don't absolutely like or is ideal, to still continue with that job, that speaks volumes about your character as well. So, congrats on that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Um,
And I actually, not to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
before you change the subject of, actually getting somebody a job, putting your neck out for them.
No, no, listen.
When I was with,
Common threads are good because I'm all over the
yeah,
place, baby.
but yeah, when I was with Mark Stein Beverage for 4 years, I had gotten two of my friends' jobs that ultimately uh, kind of screwed me. And I had recommended, and it came after the second time, and every time I talked about bringing someone in, they were like, "Well, we know what happened with the first two," and so yeah, it reflects on you. It definitely does. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
understand that, and I stuck at the jobs. And also, if you got bills to pay, you got a place to be, and you got somewhere you got to do it.
Yeah.
No exceptions.
Yeah. That's what I tell your niece all the time is I'll check the mail and I always have stuff in there and she goes, "Dad, you're really popular. You get stuff in the mail all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, it's this one guy named Bill who keeps writing me and keeps asking me for money. He's super annoying." Don't worry, when you grow up, you'll get those letters too from him. So
That's funny.
yeah.
It took me
So
a second. I was like, Bill who? Oh.
yeah. Oh crap. My computer's falling
Oh,
down. There you go. You just saw my junk. I don't know
almost.
why I did that. That was weird. Um, all right. So what previous experience do you have though? Because you mentioned Markstein too as a merchandiser, right?
Yeah, and yeah, beer distribution. That was the most recent one. And I mean, I've had a lot of jobs. I really have. I've started, in the same footsteps as you, but I kind of got a short end of the stick and redirected. I first actual paying job I had was teaching martial arts, and that didn't really last too long, and it wasn't as much of a passion as it was for you. It was for me. And then I started making sandwiches. I was still in high school, and I've done that. I've gone and I've worked, you know, like yard working jobs for storage facilities, and worked at a Popeyes and worked drive through. I've sign waved. I've done so many different things, and I've learned a lot of things. But one thing I have learned is if you do have a bunch of little jobs, try to avoid putting those on any application in a resume, because that sends a red flag, to employers. So like, okay, this guy obviously can't hold the job, which might not necessarily be true. In my younger years, before I had much of a work ethic and I had a boss I didn't like, I would tell him how I felt and I would leave. And, but it's part of learning. Not everybody does that. But so I've taken really only a few jobs out of the 20 that I've had, and I put on my resume, and that's working at the fertilizer plant in Rio Linda, California. Wilbur Ellis is a good company to work for. I was seasonal. I did 3 seasons there, and then I ended up finding Mark Stein and went to Mark Stein for 4 years. And then, if you don't know me, you know that I used to be in a band, and I had a really big social life, and then the band kind of fell apart, and things in my life kind of got a little weird towards the end of the time I was with Mark Stein. So I kind of left Mark Stein and put my life into 2 briefcases and moved over to Maine. And I was out in Maine for 6 months, and that didn't really work out. And then I came back here and started working at the gas station. So, I kind of had a step back. I tried to restart twice, and, so, I mean, it just took that to get the ball rolling. But I've really only put the bigger jobs onto my resume or in the applications, which would be Wilbur Ellis, Mark Stein. So we got 3 years, 4 years, and then there's a 5 month gap, and then I haven't really had to explain that to any other employer in the gas station. I just said, well, I wanted to do things differently. I went over to the East Coast for 5 months, came back, and now I'm here. And then I've been there for 2 years. So all those little jobs, those will come up in talking after I've been hired, essentially, because there's no point in putting all that stuff on there. You may think it makes you look valuable, but it really just makes you look shifty. So that definitely a piece of advice I can give on this episode of the podcast is, if you've had a lot of jobs, pick the ones that you think are going to help, and most commonly those will be the ones you were at for the longest. It doesn't look good to be like, oh, I was at this place. I had a parts job for Golden State Collision Centers for like a month and a half. And I put that on my resume, and I wouldn't get hired when I was trying to apply. I took it off, and then my other job was like, oh, 6 months. He's been there 6, but that month and a half job didn't look good. So
Yeah.
even though I've done a bunch of things, I really just like to tell people I worked at a fertilizer plant and filled and serviced trucks and operated forklifts, and I've merchandised stores and created great relationships with accounts. And then I've worked retail at a gas station, having to deal with people. So a big customer service job there. So, I mean, that's really all, employers need to know about me on a first look basis. We can talk about more in an actual interview, but as far as the resume goes, then that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's interesting too, because like interviewing for a job has such a parallel to sales, right? Because in sales, when I sit down with a customer for the first time, it's usually about just entry level information. Like, we're not talking about price. We're not talking about this is what it looks like to be a customer with my company now. No, we're going to talk about what are your needs? What are you looking for? Am I the best candidate to do business with you? And I feel like in job interviews, we almost have to do that too, right? Now, of course, people are going to ask you questions like, so tell me about your work history. I see on your resume X, Y, and Z. What can you tell me about that job? Gaps are another thing. I actually talked about that on, I want to say it's episode 4 of the podcast, where I was discussing gaps in employment history and how you can overcome that and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So working at a gas station, like what's an everyday kind of job that you would do?
There's quite a few things you got to do. Hold up, my key noises. I didn't want to bump on the chair. I turned the fan off. I didn't know if that was interfering. I just thought it might.
No, you're good.
I mean, obviously, you have to operate the register, deal with people, and keep clean, especially now with COVID being a big thing. One of the cats made it in here, but with COVID being a big thing, we have to constantly clean. And of course, you gotta say hi and not talk.
Hi.
But you have to. Oh, she is. Thank you. She's one of my pride and joys. But you have to stay on top of cleanliness no matter what. Even before COVID, I always was. So you got customer service. You have cleanliness. You have to check dates on all your products and merchandise the floor, the cooler, all that stuff. Keep the outside clean. Go sweep the lot. Change the trash, and then there's all those kind of other filler stuff. But so it's kind of a lot, and it's a company too where if you don't stay up on the cleanliness of the store, and someone above our boss comes in, it's one of those crap rolls downhill companies. I don't know if all gas stations are like that, but the company I currently work for is like that, and they really don't care about their frontline workers. They just care about good reviews, good shops, all that kind of stuff, which is why I advocate not to get involved in this type of line of work. But if you need a job, it's always a job somebody has to do, But and also another thing I got to deal with weirdos all the time. Oh my God. Some of the people that come in the gas station are just weirdos. And I mean, we we've had a consistent staff for the last 2 years, so a lot of these weirdos that are out and about, they know they're not allowed in the store because we give everybody a chance. You could tell someone's a weirdo the second you see them, though. Especially when you have to deal with. Typically on a shift of mine, I'll have it tells you how many customers you've actually helped during the day, and so normally at the end of my shift, an 8-hour shift, you have anywhere between 150 to 220 customers, and it doesn't seem like a lot when you think about it, but if you actually think about all those people in a single file line from the register out the door and how long it is, you're like,
That's a
man, that is
ton.
a lot of people. I have to deal with these people all the time, and like about 50% of that are people you normally see every day, but it's the other 50% that you got the weirdos and people you've never seen before, people you'll never see or hope you never see, and whatever. But yeah, dealing with weirdos is a huge part of the job.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just nasty people and rude people.
yeah. Well, I can imagine too because one thing I've noticed while walking into a gas station, and I've even had this habit myself until I broke it about a year ago, but it was literally I wouldn't even look the cashier in the eye. I would just put the thing up, pricing, give him my card, pay for it, and I'd be out, right? And then I thought better of it because I'm like, man, my brother works at a gas station. I should probably be a little bit more personable to these people. They have lives, they have kids, they have families. So just say hi, right? In fact, there's a there's a gas station in Idaho Falls, that is, uh, where there's a dude in there who speaks Mongolian, and we had this like long conversation, and I actually learned how to say hi in Mongolian.
Yeah, sure.
So next time I walked in, I was like, hey, Sambano. And he's like, oh, Sambano. And we just had this like really good friendship there after that. So every time he sees me, he's like, Sambano. I'm like, what's up, man? How are you? Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
so
that goes a long way.
tell me more about these weirdos. Like, what's one of the weirdest stories that you've come across?
Um, well, honestly, it doesn't seem that weird to me anymore, but it's the most common type of story to have happen. Is you get these and by weirdos I don't necessarily mean homeless. There are, I mean, a lot of them are homeless, and whatever the street pharmaceuticals are, you don't want none of it. I've seen them on their best days and I've seen them on their worst, and their worst days it's hard not to laugh. I'm sorry, but it's true. you know but the weirdest, the most bizarre thing is how often a lot of these regular weirdos come by and dig through the trash and pull out a hamburger and just get down on it and pull out a drink and just get, it's like, oh yeah, I want to spend like some of my own money I worked my ass for just so you don't have to do that, but I'm not gonna. I mean,
Yeah,
I have before, but at the same time, I've gone out and like had a half a pizza I got delivered to the gas station because I'm working by myself for 8 hours, and that sucks. It really does. If you don't have a teammate working at a gas station, you have to run it by yourself. That's just a miserable experience. I hope no one has to go through it that's watching this. Um, but I've gone out there before, like, hey, you want a pizza? No, and then just eat their burger they got out of the trash, and it's like, I'm not gonna offer you fresh food again, you weirdo. Like, you know, and they get super defensive if you try to help them. And it's like, oh, dude,
yeah,
I see you do this like, a couple times a week. Just I want you to eat. And if
yeah,
anyone's immune to COVID, it's the homeless in Antelope.
yeah. That that doesn't surprise me. You know what's what's interesting too is when Elise and I moved up here, there's like a group of maybe 6 people that they all rotate in front of the Walmart, and
Mm.
they do not look homeless. I mean, they're clean shaven, like their clothes are pretty clean, but they have like a sign up that says "Tough times, anything helps." And they've been doing it the whole time I've been here. And I'm like, do you guys know where
Yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah.
from? Like, you guys don't look anything like the part. Like, maybe go roll around in the mud,
Yeah.
maybe get your hair all disheveled, maybe start walking around just going wow. And then maybe it'll actually,
Right. You gotta do something. You gotta make it look convincing.
yeah,
It's there's one girl, and um, she's super young, and that's the thing too. And like, you know, is the people that are younger than me. I'm 30, and so when I see people in their 20s, early 20s, even sometimes looking younger than that in these situations, I'm like, you're wasting so much time. And I mean, how are you trying to live your life? By handouts. And I mean, I see the ones that, they go out and, they collect cans, collect bottles, this and that. They don't bother people, and they're just trying to make a living for themselves. And most of them are actually really respectful. I know a lot of them on a first name basis. But then you have the panhandlers, like you're saying, with those people outside the Walmart or whatever that rotate. And that's the thing. Panhandling is a serious problem to the economy because it's money that you don't really know. You can't assume it's going towards drugs. But I've literally seen the panhandlers go to their drug dealers and buy drugs. I've seen that. I've been at the gas station and looked for 2 years, see into that street life. But this one girl, she's out there, she's super young. She's always on the median right there because I'm at an intersection. And she's out there with her sign, blah, blah, blah. She comes in one day and she goes, "Did you take EBT?" And I was like, "You have food stamps and you're out there begging for change?" Like, oh my God. Like, we don't accept EBT. So all I said was no. And like that reaction was obviously in my head, but I'm like, what? Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
And then apparently I didn't know this because she was gone for like 4 months. But apparently someone had it out for her and hit her with the car like 4 months ago, and she disappeared. And she came back. But I did see her over after, like right by the freeway. She just relocated a little bit.
Wait, so how do you know that she got hit by a car?
One of the regulars that comes in was like, "Oh, the girl's back. Last time I saw her is when the dude ran her over." And I was like, "What?"
Did he see it like actually happen?
Yeah, yeah,
What?
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. All sorts of stuff. Actually, there's a lot of collision and a lot of accidents that happen outside of the gas station. And in fact, we got lucky a month ago because across the street at the Shell, this dude driving a nice car, I didn't see it happen. I didn't even hear it happen. But there was a good chance that we would have. But Shell has a vapor tank for their gas. We have one too. Well, ours is not on the street corner intelligently. Like I don't know why Shell decided we're just going to put our vapor tank on the street corner, put some lattice around it, and nothing will ever happen. But a guy veered out and he actually hit the vapor tank, but it flipped his car to the side, and the vapor tank was literally like untouched. But I was like, as soon as someone pointed it out, they're like, "Oh, did you see that guy across the street?" And I'm like, "No." And like I walked outside and I was like, "Oh, there he is." And I was like, "That's the vapor tank." I'm like, he almost blew up the intersection. What was he doing?
Wow. What
So,
was he
but yeah,
doing?
there's,
Was he
and
drunk
there's,
or what?
no, I saw the cops come and, talked to him, didn't put him in the car or anything. I don't know, maybe he just saw a hot chick and was like, damn, boom. Like, who knows?
Sorry, my volume
I
got
have no
turned
idea.
way down for a second. I don't know why. Wow, that's crazy, dude. So then,
But
do you have conversations with these people when they come in? Like, are you aware of their life story and why they're homeless or why they're
oh
all jacked up?
yeah, well, not some of the homeless people, not so much, not really. I've done that in the past before. I worked at a gas station. If they want to talk about it, they talk about it. It's not something I would bring up. But I'm cool with a lot of it, especially since when I moved back, and especially coming from Maine, when it got cold, I saw a lot of them like by the bus stop, sleeping on the lawn in front of Walmart, this and that, shivering. And so I did have some extra clothes, and I went out there, and I divvied up some clothes and beanies and some hats and stuff of that nature. And so like a lot of them kind of got to know me a little bit, but they more commonly know me as the guy from the gas station. But I haven't really talked to anybody too much on a personal level. There was one guy though that he was sitting at the bus stop by himself one day, and it was real cold. And I can't remember how we got to talking, but he at that time I did. I asked him, I was like, why are you in this situation? And he's like, oh, I have a problem with meth. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, and he was like, yep. So my girlfriend and my kids don't want to talk to me and this and that. And I'm like, well, that's understandable. I've seen that happen. So it's, I was kind of had a heart to heart with him. I'm like, I've had problems too. There was times before where, I was hitting the bottle too hard, and that, that caused problems, but you just have to, step away from it, this and that. And so I went home, I made him like a hot burrito, and I brought a jacket, which actually the other day I was wondering what happened to it. And it's like, oh, I gave it to that guy. And a month later, he came to the gas station and was like, hey, I'm clean. I got a job. And I was like, no way. And so I guess I really, he took it in.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, Matt, yeah, awesome. And I haven't seen him since, and that was like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So you can't help anyone that's not going to help themselves, but sometimes you can sit and talk. But for the most part, yeah, a lot of these homeless people, they're in this situation because that's what they're in. But I've also heard a lot of screwed up things from the other homeless people. And granted, I find needles and stuff all the time, and I've heard of this thing called like hot shotting somebody, and it's basically taking the corrosion off a car battery and putting that into their hit and going like, hey man, here's a hit, and they take that and it literally goes with the brain, and for years it does some nasty stuff. And that's happened to from what some of these, we're gonna call them OG homeless people, have told me. They're like, oh yeah, this happened to him. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that dude's crazy, because that dude did try to take a water bottle or a case of water, and someone yells at him, and he freaked out. And he dropped it. He ran out into the middle of the street, broad daylight, 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, and took off all his clothes and just started trying to pee in the street. And then he squatted down like,
what?
And because I wasn't there for that. My buddy Ricky called me, because this is when I walked to work, and this happened as I would be on my walk to work, like just up the street. And he was like, hey, have you seen that Marmy guy? And I'm like, no. He's like, he's running around naked, man, watch out. And I'm like, what happened? And that's what he told me. So like, it was just like, but that was one of those instances where that guy had been, his brain rattled by this antelope homeless drug stuff. And I mean, it's totally crazy. And I think I told you once about the guy with shooting fireballs at me.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So hold on. Before you tell this story, let me clarify. The first time I ever heard this story, I was dying of laughter. I mean, just absolutely hilarious. In fact, I still tell this story to people that, like, however it comes up, I find a way to bring it up because it makes every single person laugh. And I wish I was there for this. So if you haven't heard this story, the fireball story, listen with interest.
Okay. So this is early morning. There's no need for any of this. And actually, I found out it's in the early morning the weirdest stuff happens. So it's like 10 o'clock, and I'm working with my boss.
You said
I
there's no need for any of this at 3 o'clock.
No, there's not. There really isn't. So I see this guy, and we have this thing, and it happens once a week. Did you see the new one? And that means, did you see the new weirdo that we've never seen before? That happens all the time. They come and they go. And so my boss is like, yeah, by the way, there's a new one today. And at this point, 7:30, I'm clocking in for the day, counting in. I'm like, what? All right, for sure. And then like, so around 10 o'clock hits, and she says, oh, that's him. And this dude's wearing like a poncho. He's got this burly hair and this like beard all struck stuff. And he's just out there pacing around and doing stuff. And he just like, all right, this dude looks like a psycho, right? And then I keep having customers come in, because I didn't know where he went. I guess he was at the back of the building, and because our gas station is basically, it's a 2-sided gas station, so you have the pumps here, and like a little square rectangle building, right? And this would be the street side. So I saw him over here, and at this time he was in the back of the building, couldn't see him, And so I had people coming in like, there's a in the back of the building. He's like talking to the sky, and I'm like, all right, for sure. And so I kind of peek out, and I see him, like I see his poncho on the side of the building, and I'm like, okay, so he's obviously there, and he's walking around, and then I see him go to one side and then back to the other side, and I could see him the whole time. He's just like, blah 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 blah. And so I have to go get propane, so I got the other side of the building. would be the front side. And I go out this way, and I'm like, okay, well, I wonder where he's at. I'm like, because I gotta make sure this dude's not doing anything crazy. So I come back around. As soon as I hit the quarter, he saw me, and he was like 10 feet away from me, and he was just like, ah! And I was like, oh, like, and he scared the crap out of me, dude. Like, he did. And then he like looked at me and was like, and just like, walks away. And I'm like, oh Jesus. So like I'm like, no, we can't have this, right? And so people keep coming in like, this dude's crazy. What's going on? And so I walk out there, and he's on the other side of the building now, and I can't see him again. So I'm like carefully creeping up this time because I'm like trying to get shot with another imaginary fireball. And then like his back's turned when I peek around the corner, and I'm like, hey man. And then he's straight up turns to the coolest dude, right? He's just like, what's up, dude? And I'm like, hey man, I can't have you just like hanging on the property. Oh, for sure, man. I'm sorry. I'm like, you could like go over there by like the Taco Bell drive-through because we're right next to a Taco Bell. And so he goes over to the Taco Bell drive-through, and I'm sitting there and we're ringing customers. I see him standing there, and it's almost the same lot. It's just separated by like these 3 pine trees. So I see him just standing underneath the pine trees, and getting low on battery here. Are you still there? Oh yeah, there. Sorry, I was getting low on battery.
You're good. You can plug it in if you want.
But yeah, so like there's no customers, and you know, I go out for a cigarette, and I hear this do this little rah thing again, and like I just hear car brakes squeak, and I look, and like someone was pulling into the drive-through, and the car was stopped, and he was just like that, like they scared him. So he's just over there shooting fireballs at the people coming through the Taco Bell drive-through. And I was just like, dude, this is great. Like I just like, he was around all day too, because after work I got home, and I was like, I'm gonna go get a beer. And I went up to the liquor store, and he was just sitting there and like sulking in one of the shadows with his poncho. And I was like, oh God, there he is. You know, but I mean, that's just, you know, one of the few times that something extremely weird has happened. And we have cops that come in often too. And I asked them, I always talk to them like, what do you know about this person? What do you know about this person? Because they're really cool. We let them use the bathroom. We actually have a really good bathroom for a gas station. The first time I used it when I started working there, I was like, it's like home. You know, it's, you know, my gas stations at that point was run by females. Now it's my boss, which who's a female, and the guys. So we're her boys now. But so yeah, very homely type of atmosphere in the bathroom. So the cops love it, and we always give them free coffee and free fountain drinks. You know, because we respect what you know, law enforcement officers do for us, and just in general, and with our company and helping us out. So I get to talking to a lot of them, and I was talking to one of the officers who's a younger guy, and he was like, "Oh wait, the dude with the curly hair and the poncho?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I haven't seen him in like 7 or 8 months." He's like, "That dude like actually owns a house up in like Dutch Haven, and just like will randomly come out tripping for like a couple days, and then he'll go back to his house and his day job." And I'm like, that's how you get your kicks? That's just strange to me. Like, wow. Well,
he probably got hooked up with like all of the Cell Game saga from Dragon Ball Z. He just got all psyched. He's like, I'm gonna go throw some what's it called? The Kamehameha, all the
right,
all the Taco Bell customers.
I should have just sat there and responded like,
yeah. Just go Super Saber Clone. See what he does.
Right. Oh no.
That's
he probably would have thrown me like 12 feet. He was obviously on something.
Yeah, for sure.
Would have had that superhuman strength. Actually, there is this one crazy lady too that it's really sad what I come to find out. I saw her today actually as well. But she kind of resurfaces here and there. Her name's Erica, and she's like an older black lady, and she has like the most piercing, beautiful blue eyes you've ever seen, like a really light blue. And she used to be like an Olympic caliber track runner, but then she just went like off the deep end. and got crazy because um, around the time I first started a couple of years ago, the same cop I was actually talking about was like, he came in one day, he's like, "Oh, Erica's back," and I'm like, "Erica?" And then he explained her, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, she came in last night," and it was really weird because like she came in running in, and I was like working the late stuff, like by myself, 10:30, 10:45 at night, and then she just randomly comes in, she's like, "Oh, can you hold these cards for me?" And I'm like, "Sure." She's like, "They're my boyfriend's. I'll be right back," and slams on the counter, and she runs away. And I never saw her again, right? And then the officer was like, "Oh, Erica's back," and I'm like, "Erica who?" Explained her. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that girl that came in last night, crazy lady." And he was like, "Dude, be nice to her." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Dude, she beats up cops." She's like, we've arrested her so many times for like, we'll come up and be like, "You gotta leave," and then she'll be like, "What?" And like she's like yoked too. And like he's like, "Yeah, the first time I talked to her, I was like, excuse me, you gotta leave." And then she like popped up like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no. You just can't be here. That's fine." She's like, "Oh, okay." And I've encountered her on the streets plenty of times too. And she at this point, she knows me. I don't know if it's taken that long, but like she actually knows my name. I have a name tag when most people see me. But yeah, she came in the day and didn't come in. She's not allowed in the store. And she's like crazy. But she came by the store and asked for a lighter a couple times and this and that. And so I gave her a lighter, and then she was like, "Can I maybe like get a soda and pay you back later?" I'm like, "I'll tell you what, I'll get you some ice and some water." And we're even supposed to charge for that, but I'm like, it's okay. So today in Antelope, California, in Sacramento Valley, it's like 109 degrees.
Yeah, I
Like
saw
the
that.
real feel like 114. It sucks outside. It's like 8:40 right now, and it sucks
Yeah.
outside. It's so bad. So I was like, yeah, I'll get you some water, this and that. Here's a cigarette, And she's like, "Oh, thanks, you're such a sweetheart." But then like, it's because I treat her with respect every time I have, seen her. I've never treated her differently because of, her reputation or whatever. But like I have like, she's crazy. Like a few months ago, I was walking up the street and I just like see this chick like with scissors like throwing her hair to the side of the road, right? And in my head, I'm like, "Oh my god, that looks like Erica." I get like 5 feet from her, and she has a pair of scissors, right? She's all like this, and all of a sudden she's like, "Mm." And I'm like, right? And I'm like, "Oh, Erica, you want a cigarette?" She goes, "Oh, thank you, sweetheart. I'd appreciate that." And I give her a cigarette, and she's like, "You're so sweet, thanks." But it went from like, "I'm gonna shank you" to like, "Oh, it's you." Like, like so. Yeah, with this weirdo stuff, yeah, we got ultimate weirdos out here,
Yeah.
and it's I don't know, it's just Antelope. I mean, sure you get your weirdos everywhere. I'm just glad I don't work downtown, because there's a lot of weirdos down there for sure.
Oh, dude, I had a
But
I had a run in with back when I first started with this uniform company I work for, UniFirst. I I was taught that the dirtier the building looks, typically the dirtier the employees are. So that's the best place to go in because they probably need laundry service and stuff, right? So I'm downtown Sac,
mm-hmm,
it's part of my territory, and I walked up to this like abandoned warehouse. And I walk around the side to go see if there's like a back entrance. And this homeless dude, we literally like bumped chests. He goes back, I go back. He lost his balance. I look down, and his pants are completely down. His underwear is completely down. So he's just like
no,
flopping in the wind, bro. And he
oh
gets up
no,
super quick. He looks down, he sees a metal pipe, and he picks it up, and he's like, "Ah!" And I was like, "Oh, bro, hold up." Like I stepped
that,
back. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." Like, and I just like I tried to use all my my de-escalate the situation psychology stuff I learned in the CHP Academy. So I tell him like, "Hey man, listen, tell me your name. What's your name?" And he's like, "My name's Jeff." And I'm like, "Okay, Jeff." I was like, "Why don't you have a seat? We'll talk." He's like, he's
right?
like, "I just got robbed." And I was all, "Okay, let's talk about it. Can you sit down real quick? Maybe pull your pants up so I'm not staring at you." And dude, I kid you not, I look over to my left, and off in the distance, there's this marijuana dispensary, and there's this
Mm,
big, gigantic security guard just yoked out, right? He's looking at us like this, just like what's going on? I was like, yo, you want to come help me? He just goes,
Right? Help, please.
he just shakes his
Yeah.
head. He's like, nope. I was like, are you for real, bro? So like, I called SAC PD. They come rolling up. SAC PD gets out and they're like, oh, hey, James, how's it going? And I was like, the guy's name is James. And he goes up and he's like, what are you doing today? He's like, oh, I was just playing basketball. And he started talking about something totally different than what we had been talking about. And I was like, what the heck? And so the cop goes, he goes, hey, did he threaten you with that pipe? I was like, yeah, but I mean, I think it was just because I scared him or whatever. And then he put it down eventually. And he's like, well, it's a good thing you didn't try to fight him because he's on PCP right now. Like, he would have beat you up. I was like, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's, yeah.
that's how I felt about the fireball game, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But
You
I,
know, it's like,
like,
hey, settle down.
yeah. But Sacramento's kind of like that right now as far as homeless population with downtown, especially because
Mm-hmm.
like COVID takes away all the jobs and stuff. And actually, I was just talking to Ben Baker. He works for UPS just a couple nights ago. He was on the
Right.
podcast, and he was
Yeah, I
talking about
watched a little bit of that guy. He seems like a really smart guy.
yeah, yeah. He's super smart, but he was talking about how bad uh, San see it's the headphones things. San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco. See, you can do it now as the headphones are off. I can't stop listening to myself otherwise. Um, but he said he actually found a dead body, like bent over a
Mm.
pylon, and I was like, "Whoa, dude!"
Probably like a heroin overdose or something.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't know how the person died. Like he called the police, they came out,
Yeah.
and from what he was saying is that they made it sound like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like it happens all the time. So it's really sad too because San Fran used to be awesome, and now it just sucks apparently.
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean, a lot of places get run down, and poverty is that. But yeah, you see a lot of that working at the gas station for sure. It
yeah,
has been a lot of times, especially with poverty and drugs. There at one time I had a guy. I saw him. He was in the parking lot. He was at a pump. He was fighting with his girlfriend. You know, they both didn't look like they were in the best shape, and she ends up leaving in his car with like a bag. Little skinny little redhead chick. And the guy's sitting out there for a while, and it was a hot day. It was like last summer or whatever. And so I go out there smoking a cigarette, and like the dude's like digging around through his car. I'm out there for like half a cigarette, and I'm sweating my ass off. And so I was like, "Hey, you good?" And he was like, yeah, not really." And so basically, his girlfriend had taken all their money and their drugs, and left to go sell it and pretty much leave him high and dry. And I was like, so and I was like, yeah, that's what drugs will do to you, kind of make you a thief. I've seen it. And he was like, well, he's like, yeah, but he's like, I'm a drug addict, but I'm not a thief. I know I got problems, but I'll never screw anyone over. And I was like, okay, I can respect the honesty, And he was just like, I just wish he's like, I'm just trying to get back to Roseville so I can, you know, go meet up with my friend and get out of this heat. And I was like, you thirsty? He's like, yeah. I'm like, come on inside. So I buy him a fountain drink. And while I buy him a fountain drink, I put $10 on his tank. And then so I give him the drink, and he's like, yeah, thanks, man, appreciate it. And I'm like, oh, by the way, there's $10 on the pump. He goes, what? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, dude. I was like, to hell with that girl. She's gonna do that to you, and why don't you go on your way?
yeah,
And he was like, hell yeah, man. And then so, so yeah, the poverty and the drugs. I mean, it's bad. But it happens everywhere. You didn't used to see it, but it's just I don't know. There is that mentality of people, which are unlike people that are going to watch your podcast. People watching your podcast are never going to put themselves in a situation.
well, I'd hope not.
You know,
But
yeah,
at the same
definitely.
time, I would say that because everybody wants to make something of themselves, right? They want to be
Mm-hmm.
successful, they want to be accomplished, they want to go get that better job, and there's a great episode of Entourage. I don't know if you've ever watched that show, but
There's only like 3 shows I watch.
yeah. But the main character is he's an actor, and his agent Ari is like this super like amazing agent, and he gets him into movies and stuff, which is why I like watching the clips of the show because Ari is hilarious, right? Like, he's just a complete savage. And the actor's friend comes into his office and he goes, look, I just want to make something of myself. And Ari goes, Turtle, do you have any idea how hard it is to make something of yourself? And I was like, I've never heard it put that way, because if you go on YouTube and you look up like motivation, right, you'll see motivational videos and speeches and people talking about how you got to put 110%, you got to move forward every single day, you got to improve every single day. It's it's BS, dude. It's complete fluff. And for anybody that listens to that video that goes, yeah, I'm motivated, I'm going to stop doing drugs, I'm going to stop being homeless, I'm actually going to go out there and make some of myself. You can't do it based off of that, right? You have to have the training involved. And that's why I tell people the first thing you should do if you want to become successful is you have to find someone else that fits your definition of a success, and to actually go and ask that person, hey, what'd you do to get here, right? Now, of course, with what we're talking about, there's a gigantic unspoken problem within this country of mental health. And I think a big
Oh
part of
yeah,
why it's
big
not
time.
spoken of, yeah, like my theory is the reason it's not spoken about is because nobody really has an answer into what the like what the solution is. Because you could grow up with the best parents in the world and be taught all the right things, but if for some reason your mind slips or you have some kind of chemical imbalance, or I mean any number
Yeah,
of things that that
yeah, and get by
I mean that's
chemical imbalance,
impossible.
a big thing, a big problem. Like you said, chemical imbalance is pharmaceuticals. I'm sorry, like I don't buy too much into them. Maybe some are good, maybe some are not. I had a depression, or thought I had depression, when I was in high school, and so I went and saw a shrink. He prescribed me Prozac, and I remember I took one pill, and I took that in front of the bathroom mirror, and it felt so wrong. I literally put that to the side and just thought differently about how I should be doing things and how I should be living my life. And and that's really kind of like, I mean, I was what, 16 at the time. I didn't understand what depression was. I was just a confused adolescent. I
Mm.
just had no idea. You know, I hope people really never have to actually understand what depression feels like, because I've gotten there too in my later life. Like when I went out to the East Coast and I came back and worked at the gas station. Especially seeing this like 10 years after I've graduated high school and I'm working at a gas station, and like people I went to high school with would come into the gas station, and like they'd be like, "Oh, hey, Kyle, right?" And in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, you caught me. This is where I'm at." And I hated that feeling. I did, but and that was to me more depressing than the girl that I liked in high school not liking me. It
Mm.
was because it was like, okay, I've gone way, way past it. But yeah, chemical imbalance and depression and stuff. Pharmaceuticals, I'm not a fan. I think there's a natural, healthy way to do that, and it's just honestly, it's getting off your ass, as what it is. It's actually going out there and go getting it. You know,
Yeah.
grabbing life by the horns, and you have to do that. And so, and I know that's kind of your message to your viewers on your podcast is like, hey, you know, stop interviewing, start selling. Go out there, do that. And honestly, since you've started your podcast and I've been listening to it, I've gotten some motivation off of that. Quite a bit. You know,
Awesome. I'm
like
glad to hear
I
that.
do. I should have an interview coming up here this week with
Yeah, so
Lowell and Brants.
tell me more about that, because that's the next part I want to talk to you about is this next opportunity, like
Mm-hmm.
because you said that the podcast kind of motivated you to look at like other avenues. How did this podcast help you? Was it something specific I said? Was it a specific freaking headphones? All right, there we go. It's better. Dude, I'm stuttering all over myself using these things. I have to get used to them. But was it like something specific? Was it something like a specific episode that you listened to that like helped you to get to that next step?
I don't know if it was anything too specific other than hearing my older brother talk to me in a way. I mean, you were talking to people in a generality, but I know what you've done, and I know you've kept a real level head, and I've lived, kind of a little bit more unscrupulous rock and roll type of life, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, I really honestly need to work. I need to focus. I need to do that, and so just like really thinking about just like, start selling yourself and this and that. And it's, for me, it started with like, well, how am I selling myself? What am I doing? What are my bad habits? Where's money going that I'm spending that shouldn't be going to places? And this, kids, don't smoke. That's expensive and it's bad for you. That's a big one, but that's super hard to kick. It's super hard to kick. I'm doing my best with that, but it's not too good. But yeah, no, just really, like I said, just I've been trying to sell myself to myself. It's like, okay, well, I could do this and that. I actually started a garden, and that's been a whole plateau of knowledge. It's something that's been actually pretty cool, recreational, but also it's kind of like, okay, well, like, look, if I could put work into this, I can put work into myself. Where there's growth, there's growth. That type of thing. But I mean, just I've been thinking of like, I want to do something. I got to get out of where I'm at. I don't want to. I'd gotten lucky and got a car on a good deal, and then it kind of went to crap. And then when I got my tax return, I spent like most of that money getting it in tip-top shape, and that was really recently here. So I was like, okay, now is the time to really move on. And I had actually gotten contacted by somebody, which it's been kind of exciting because an acquaintance of mine that I made while I was with Mark Stein worked for DBI, which now got bought out by the Reyes brothers, and it is now Golden Brands, and becoming a really big beer company. I was kind of in talks with him in March about maybe coming over, and the COVID stuff happened, and he said, no, there's a hiring freeze. And then he totally forgot about me until just recently, and I posted a picture on Facebook wearing my mask with my name tag on my mask. And then he was like, oh, like, we need people, and this guy's got the experience. And so he hit me up and was like, are you trying to come back to the beer industry? And I'm like, I just spent like $700 on my car. I hate working here. Yeah. Like, so yeah, I'm just waiting on the interview, which I'm really looking forward to, especially after especially talking about selling yourself and stuff, because this is like the first interview of my life like I'm 100% confident about, and I want to get out of where I'm at. Like, legitimately, I do want that. I've got 4 years experience in the field, and I've got retail experience as far as using the handhelds that they use to check in loads and this and that, and customer service. I mean, there's a whole bunch of more knowledge I have now that I had when I was working for Mark Stein. Oh, she's biting my phone cord. But no, I have 100% confidence in the interview. This is something I just know that anybody right now that they're hiring, I am. Oh my God! All right, see this? See what she's doing here? As long as that doesn't happen when I have the interview on Microsoft Teams, I'm pretty sure I got the job.
Yeah.
Natasha, yeah, back. Get out of here now. She's gone. Someone let her in my room. But yeah, no, yeah, the podcast has inspired me. Like I said, just like kind of thinking of just like, where are you at? What can you do? Can you get out of the hole you're in? Is it a hole? Is it where you want to be? So.
Right.
But yeah, so hopefully within the next month, not this month, but hopefully by mid-September, I'll be out in the new field there with Golden Brands, and the one thing too is I'll be pretty ambitious coming in, and that's one thing. The guy reached out to me was asking me, it's like, do you see yourself merchandising, or are you trying to get into sales? And I was like, I'll be trying to get into sales once I get my foot in the door. And sales in vendor world, as far as like beverages, is so much different than a sales job like yours. You're
Yeah.
not out cold calling stuff. You're basically, sometimes you got to get some new products in, this and that, but you're basically the guy that goes in and goes, we need to order this. That's sales. So it's not like an actual sales job. But I don't know, maybe I'll get into that one day. But probably many more conversations that after me and you have had, get some pro tips.
Yeah. I'm happy to give them. That's awesome, man. And it sounds like that company has a lot of upward mobility too, especially if they just took over DBI. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
I believe in Sacramento, we actually used to service DBI for their uniforms and stuff. So we probably still
Right.
do. But yeah, that was a
Maybe.
gigantic account. I mean, there was a ton of people that
Oh yeah,
was
DBI. Yeah,
merchandisers.
DBI is huge, and now Golden Brands, which Golden Brands um, is the beer division of the Reyes brothers. So Coca Cola,
Yeah.
and the juggernaut, an absolute juggernaut. And it's funny too, it's because like I've talked to a couple people that used to work for DBI, or people that know people that work for Golden Brands, or people who just work for Golden Brands. Where you don't want to do that. People are leaving and this and that, blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's exactly why I want to. Are you
Mm,
kidding me?
yeah.
Because when I was with Mark Stein, I gave them a real strong work ethic, and I wasn't afraid to work. I really wasn't. And even the fact the route that I used to run is now two routes, because after I left, the guy that ran the route was like, "This is too hard. I can't do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, that's the thing
it's kind of like,
about jobs is that everybody wants to give you advice on working there, right? And it really
yeah,
depends
and
on it really depends on that person's previous experience and what they consider to be hard or difficult. Like I recommend UniFirst to everybody. I tell them, look, if this is the job, if this is a career that you want to have in sales or in service, you can make really good money doing it. And there's a lot of upward mobility too. But the problem is that when people come on to not just UniFirst, but to like any other job, and they actually have to work hard, they actually have to push past that point, now it becomes almost impossible. And that's that same person that leaves a company after like 6 months to a year and they go, oh, don't work here. It's not worth it. It was too hard. Well, maybe it's too hard for you, right? It's like in Dark Knight
right.
Rises when it's like, if I take that mask off, though, what's he say? Would you die? Right? And Bane goes, it would be extremely painful. And he goes, you're a big
Mm-hmm.
guy. And he goes, for you. So it's like everybody's perspective is different, right? Sorry, that
Right.
was a terrible impression of it. I should have been like, hello, Mr. UPS man.
Right.
As a South Park
No,
reference.
but
If you guys didn't get that.
I didn't get that. I don't watch South Park. Like I said, I only watch a few TV shows.
That's
But
the one where Cartman dresses up like Bane and and the
mm,
UPS man keeps on like driving by his house, but he doesn't drop off his package, right? So he puts on the Bane mask and he
mhm.
jumps into the UPS guy's truck and he's like, hello, Mr. UPS man. This is so good, dude. And he's like, who are you? And he's like,
That's funny.
it doesn't matter who I am. What matters is my plan. Yeah,
That's
so
great.
good. Well,
But yeah, but like with the people saying like, oh, you don't want to work there, or I wouldn't do it, and this and that, blah blah. Like in my head, it's like, oh, it's not a good company to work for, blah blah blah. Like in my head, part of me is like, maybe that's because I don't work for them yet. Maybe that's because like they are they lacking leadership? What are they? I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they're a bad company. Let me put a toe in the water. Let's fill it out here, and maybe this be something that I can get involved in, and maybe for the long run. Because like I said, I'll come in pretty ambitious. I'm not going to plan on being a merchandiser for years. I want to get the ranks. Maybe if it's sales, maybe it's in delivery for a little bit or whatever. Fill it out. maybe this could be something, maybe, it's like, and maybe I could put all my attention into it, because at this point, I'm not really exactly sure what I want to do with my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, I've always wanted to be a performer. I've always wanted to be a rock star, this and that. But now is this time, especially with the way the world's going. You can't even play a show. What's the point right now in even trying to do that?
Yeah.
But the world needs some strong thinkers and good workers for sure. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's time to buckle down and really get to work. I think especially with like the way our economy's gone with everything that's happened in light of this year, it's people need to get back to work.
Yeah. Well,
For sure.
yeah, I would absolutely 100% agree with you on that, because I think to close down things, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, a lot of these small business owners and their teams and their employees, I mean, they're struggling right now, and
Hmm.
it's a sad thing, right? But one thing I did want to mention is you're very creative and you're very talented with music. I mean, you have a YouTube channel. Why not just make videos?
Yeah, I have a couple. I mean, it's super hard. You got to figure out the right things um, to attract people's attention with. Which right now I'm like almost borderline wanting to make an ASMR video. That's it's extremely huge. You know what
Uh,
ASMR is?
no.
It's relaxing. It stands for something like autonomous systematic
Oh, was that?
mind response or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's the
It's
stuff
like,
where the
but
guys like make random noises and stuff, right?
yeah, those ones are kind of funny because sometimes like people like they're just like
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Or they're
know,
all.
but yeah, but then there's other ones where like people are like doing stuff with it. But it's like I just feel like if I made like a whisper video and call it like ASMR, and it was just like whatever, like hi, this is the key. Like people will love it, and it's like if that's what draws attention to my YouTube channel, then like whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
rope them in.
But
You
what?
just go
But when?
slowly down the back, and then you hook them like a bass.
Shout out to Andrew Scholes. Um, I think it was. I forget the app. Was it? Was it Snapchat that you did the? You did a song. You did the singing. You did the guitar, and you did the drums, and you
That
kept
wasn't
cutting back and
Snapchat.
forth.
No. Um, that was like Windows Movie Maker, but that's on my one of my YouTube channels. I don't know what the name for
Yeah.
that one is. So
Yeah. But
I have three now.
yeah, but something like that, because like here's the thing. When you were in what was your band's name again? Motorize?
Motorized.
Motorize,
Yeah.
yeah. When you were in Motorize, one of the things that I saw off the bat when I went to go see you guys play at Ace of Spades in Sacramento was
Mm-hmm.
like if you could clone yourself and be the singer, the the lead guitarist, the drummer, and the bassist, that band would be 10 times the band that Motorized was. Because dude, your singer sucked. And I'll just be honest. Like he was like I was not the biggest fan of your
Sorry,
singer.
AJ.
Yeah,
He said it, not me.
yeah. No, I'll tell him straight up. AJ, I don't think singing's your thing. But hey, I'm I'm not one to say that you can't change that. I mean, there were a lot of people that liked you that night. You just maybe sucked is a bad word. Maybe it's more of like I just didn't click with his vocals or his
Acquired
singing.
taste.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste, definitely. But yeah, maybe it's my bias because I mean, you're my brother and I feel like you're amazing. And I think if you could be the drummer, the bassist, the singer, the lead guitarist, it would just be fantastic. It'd be amazing. I think with modern day technology and window making and editing, window making, Windows movie making, and like editing that you could do on your own, you could probably have an awesome YouTube channel. It'd be
Yeah, maybe.
hilarious.
I
I'd
mean
love it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliment. But the time and effort can't be spent there now. It's the grind.
Right.
It's the grind right now for sure. You know,
Yeah.
we'll get there hopefully eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even have a drum set, which is a shame because I'm not one to be egotistical about any musical capabilities, but the fact that I don't have a drum set right now just makes me feel like I'm wasting talent.
Yeah. I feel that way as
So
well. Well, lastly, we will end with this. I see you're a Niners fan in the back. I've got my Niners conference championships hat on.
absolutely,
Do you think we're going to have an
yeah.
NFL season this season because of COVID?
Um, Probably for like uh, a couple weeks, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh, there's all these COVID cases," and that's not gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I will say this: like, you know, I don't care too much to talk about COVID on your podcast. I have a very hard-headed view about it. I think it's like honestly very spoonful of political BS, and it's not as serious as it is as they say it is. You know, but that's just my take. I stay clean. I'm clean all the time. Like I said, even before, like I mentioned at the gas station, I always have to clean stuff. I always wipe stuff down. Even before the COVID stuff,
Right.
I was always wiping everything down that people touch because it's always been something I've done. Because I'm like, think about how many people touch this stuff. Like, ew, it's nasty, you know. But I don't know. It's just common sense. Don't be a dirty
Yeah.
person. You know, you won't get sick that much or get food poisoning. That's inevitable. Don't eat it at Jack's Urban Eats unless Philip gets endorsed by him.
What? I'm sorry, you broke out there. What'd you say?
Uh, I said unless you said people are dirty and they don't normally get sick. I said or get food poisoning. I said don't eat at Jack's Urban Eats unless Philip gets endorsed by him.
Oh, that just reminded me. Oh crap! My phone, my
Oh, it's going
computer's falling down
down.
again. The whole world's going crazy.
He's
No, it just
not
reminded
wearing
me.
shoes.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I kicked up my flip flops because they were making a ton of noise, and this snowball mic picks up everything. I don't know if you hear it on your end, but if I crack my fingers, do you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like super loud on my headphones when I do it. Or if I go,
Oh yeah, no.
it's like really loud. But no, I was just gonna say, big shout out to my sponsors. I have none. So if anybody's looking to sponsor the podcast, feel free to reach out to me. And for all you people traveling north and south on I-80, please stop because that freeway runs east-west. That's an old joke, in case you've never heard it before. Most people listening to this probably haven't heard that.
Yeah, no, it does not run east or west.
Anyways,
Well,
Kyle,
I was trying to find my motorized shirt because I was going to say motorized sponsors you, but that didn't work out.
no, it's all right, man. Kyle, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope that
Yep.
I hope you had fun. I really enjoyed
Yeah, of
listening to
course.
your stories about the gas station and the craziness and all the weirdos out there, and seeing the cat was
Yep.
awesome. So you can tell, give. I mean, this is the second interview I've done on my podcast, and the second time I've actually recorded a visual representation of what the podcast is. And I wasn't lying to you guys when you're listening to me. I am literally in a closet with somehow this thing up here just keeps moving forward, so it knocks over my computer. But thank you guys for listening to Stop Interviewing, Start Selling. Once again, I'm your host, Phil Meyer. This is my brother, Kyle Meyer. Kyle, if somebody wanted to look up your YouTube channel, where can they find it? What's it called?
It's Kyle Style Meyer. I think there's a couple other Kyle styles on there. There's a lot of Kyle battles on the internet. I'll have you know. But if you look up Kyle
Those
Style,
bastards.
how to tie a tie, or probably my best video right now is if you just keyword in I suck at golf vlog number 3, you'll probably find me.
Yeah, that was a great video. I actually shared the how to tie a tie one on LinkedIn, and a lot of people actually looked at that video.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Nice.
lastly, if you guys are out there and you're looking for a job and you're looking to find who's hiring right now, go on to linkedin.com, make yourself a profile page. Once again, remember, nobody's going to market yourself better than you will. So once again, stop interviewing, start selling yourself, these big companies, don't be afraid to reach out to people with InMail, send them messages on LinkedIn. You can comment on their things. You can ask people to uh, be a connection. And once again, I have no sponsors. I have no dog in this fight. I can just tell you how big of an impact LinkedIn has made on my business, on my person, and most of the people I've met in different circles. So once again, Kyle, I love you, man. Me, brother.
Me too. Me brother.
All right, guys, tune in next time, and we'll get some more guests. Thanks again. I don't know how to stop recording now. Hold on.